To digitize the Dahlia, I traced around the two simple shapes and used my scanning mat to scan them into the Brother Scan and Cut. And then I saved outside only and saved it to the Brother Canvas. When I got into Brother's Canvas workspace, I went to My Projects and I had it right here as the upload, and I have already cleaned up the mat and saved it, but you just hit edit this project and the only stray mark on the mat was the bottom of the paper, so I just hit delete and then I gave it the unique name and save. And I downloaded, this is P13 and 62, and I downloaded the file to my computer. I want to take a really good look at the design first on Lori's website. And if you look, these inner edges form almost a perfect circle, and the design, the tips of the flowers are right at 9.5. So it's a 9.5 diameter flower. Also, note that as the red edge comes here, it is covered by the green petal. Okay, so you don't have a gap in between you don't see the corner, you don't see the corner of this one right here. It's going to be covered by that. And then also you need to notice that this petal right here tucks under this one to form and finish out the circle. So there's a trick to be able to make that work with the embroidery machine so that it doesn't stitch right here, and we're going to iron it kind of like when we put down petal number 1, we're going to iron it halfway, just on the right half, so that when we place petal 12, it is tucked, this part is open, and you can tuck that last petal underneath. And then we're going to make it so it blanket stitches last on petal 1. So let's get into that and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. Okay, so in Embrilliance, you've got to set up your 9.5 inch work area, and this is the 10 by 16 hoop, so I'll be probably doing this on the Luminaire. I'm going to use a ruler guide, and you get the ruler guides by grabbing the little ruler marks, not on the numbers, but just the little marks. You can grab it, and I'm going to drag it down to 4 3/4, which is right here, minus 4 3/4, and I'm going to get another one and drag it to plus 4 3/4, and then I'm going to do the same on the side. I'm going to get a ruler guide and drag it over to plus 4 3/4, and then I'm going to get another one and I'm going to drag it over to minus 4 3/4. Okay, so there is our workspace inside of the ruler guides. So now I need to go into StitchArtist and I need to import the vector graphic that I downloaded from Brother Canvas. So I'm going to click on the StitchArtist button. You have to have StitchArtist 2 in order to be able to see this vector button right here. If you have StitchArtist 1, your little text tool will be right there instead. So I'm going to click on vector, and here it is right here in my downloads folder. This is P13-62, and I'm going to click open. Each time I do this until the very end, I'm going to delete the circle. I don't need that right now. What I want to do is put in 4 of the petals, and I'm going to put them at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. Okay, I'm going to jump out of StitchArtist, all right, by clicking on the StitchArtist button, and I'm going to rotate my design 2 times. Okay, I'm going to center this in the hoop, and then I'm going to just turn it so that the bottom edge looks flat with a line, and then I'm going to click off and then click back on to select it, and I'm going to use my arrow key and I'm going to bring it all the way up to, so that the tip is on that guideline, okay? I'm going to continue to do that for the next 3 that I'm using for guidelines. When you're doing this in StitchArtist, if you just were to like highlight this and copy and paste it to create another one, the software does not recognize that they're 2 separate designs. And so it will not remove the blanket stitches from underneath those petals that are covering the blanket stitching. You don't want those stitches to be under there, so you have to tell the software that it's a new design. So we're going to jump back into StitchArtist. Now I want to show you, this is the Create button. If I hover over it, it says Create, the little text tool. Look here between Utility, View, and Zoom. You don't see a Create tab. When I click on the StitchArtist button, we now get the Create tab in between Utility and View. So we want to Create, Design, and Begin New Design. And we're going to do this for each one of the petals and the center. So I'm going to click the vector button again, and I'm going to bring in that vector and tell it OK. And highlight the circle, hit delete. You could download them in 2 different designs if you want. I just did them both together because they're in the same. I'm going to jump out. I want to put this in the center of the hoop. I'm going to click the center in the hoop button. I'm going to rotate this so that the edge is, this inner short edge is even with a line. And then I'm going to use my arrow key and move it all the way out to that 4 3/4 line. So we want these right here are going to look like they're forming that inner circle. So you want to rotate them so they get kind of an inner circle look. But the point is to keep these tips out here, okay? And now I want to go back into StitchArtist. I'm going to Create, Design, Begin New Design. Grab it again. It's just 2 little keystrokes to move that. And I mean, you can bring this down if you want and rotate it yourself. You don't have to jump out of StitchArtist. I'm just going to try to get these tips so that they're right here. And one more time, Create, Design, Begin New Design, Vector, okay. So the point of doing this is we need to create a guideline for the points so that they form that circle. And the way I'm going to do that, put this right here and get this rotated correctly. What I'm trying to do is I want to move this, is what I want to do. I'll just nudge it with my arrow keys. There we go. So what I'm trying to do is come up with, I can see right here, this is going to be the center of the circle. So you can come up here to this little flower looking thing with an arrow, and that's merge a design in from the library. So click on that. You have Embrilliance outlines. You want just regular Embrilliance. You'll get the alignments lines right here, and I want the rotation point, and I'm going to click OK. So that brought it in the middle. Now this one right here, it's up here in the measurements, it's 3/16. I want to change this. Make sure your padlock is on, and I want to change it to 9.50 and hit enter. And it went to 1 5/16, 9.50, and hit enter. There we go. So here is where we need to align our outer points to. That's 9.5. Okay, I'm going to add another one. I'm going to come back into this merge design, and on the alignments, I'm going to click rotation point, click OK, and I want to make this one bigger. I'm just approximating right now. I am going to click center in the hoop. Okay, now I've got these 2 edges right here on like the 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock petals. I can kind of bring it down and see That's, oh, probably, let me center in the hoop again. That's real close to there. So let me zoom in a little bit. So now I am using this circle. Make sure it's centered. Okay. Now I'm going to use this circle as a guideline to make sure that I get these correct. So click on this. I can rotate it just a little bit, and it's going to take some time. You want to try to get the center of the petal is where you want it touching, okay? So if you hold your space bar down, your cursor turns into a little hand and you can drag. And this is going to give you an idea where you can put things, okay? So the trick is to get these 4 first. As soon as you get these 4 in, then you can begin to put in the rest of the petals. You want to get these so that the center of the short side is on that circle and the tip is out here on this circle. Okay, that's beginning to take shape now. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to continue to add in the rest of the petals and place them and get them all in here. And I'll be in StitchArtist going create, design, begin new design, and grab the vector. So I will do that. Okay, we've got all of the petals on now, and you just want to take a look and see, so, you know, the spacing between the overlaps, these are the overlaps, like that one's a little bit narrow. You can certainly rotate these and fine tune and tweak them all you want. You just want to make sure that, you know, you've got even amounts of space. Even in Lori's picture, they're not exact, okay, but you know, it pretty much looks like a flower would look. Okay, so this looks real good. Now I want to bring in the vector one more time. Okay, so we've got 14 elements here, and we only need 12 petals, but we've got 14 elements because we've got those 2 circles. We're going to get rid of those, okay? So we can come back up here to the rotation point circles and just highlight them and hit delete, and then highlight the next one and hit delete. Okay, now we are down to the 12 petals, and that's great. And now we need to bring in the circle. So I'm going to import that one more time. Create, design, begin new design, bring in the vector. And then this time I'm going to delete the petal. I don't need that. And the circle, I'm going to jump out of StitchArtist and I'm going to center it in the hoop. There we go. Now the circle is perfect. I'm going to Control A to select all, and then back in StitchArtist I'm going to click on the blanket stitch button and turn it into applique. All right. The next step you need to do is to make sure that your petals now are in the right stitch order. I remembered this step after I finished editing this video, or while I was editing the video. So later on in the video, it'll look like their order is out of order, but I am putting this in where you need to do it in your sequencing. So over here in the Objects panel, This is actually a stitch order. So we want to do petal number 1, petal number 2. Okay, this is here because this is the second one that I put down, and then this will be petal number 3 and this will be petal number 4. So what you want to do is click on the one that you want to be number 2. Right now that's number 5. Grab a hold of it, not on the picture, not on the words, and drag it and hover it up over the one you want it to be after. So if I click off, now I've got 1 and I've got 2. Click on this. I want this one to be number 3. So I'm going to drag it up and hover it over the one I want it to be after. 4 is correct. That's not correct. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This one I want to be petal number 5. I'm going to grab it on the picture and hover it over number 4. I want this to be number 6. Grab it over on the picture, hover it over number 5. I want this to be number 7. That's correct. It looks like the blanket stitches are all stitching, but they're not right now. If you wanted to go in and change any of the stitch lengths, you could do that here by opening it up and clicking on it, and you'll get a stitch length, the ability to change stitch lengths and that kind of thing. I'm going to leave the tie-ins and tie-offs exactly where they are now. They're all starting in the center, so they will be covered by the center of the flower, which is perfect, okay, for right now. All right, so I'm going to save this. I'm going to File, Save As, Stitch and Working, and I'm going to save it. I was working with this before. I'm going to save it as Dahlia 2 so that I know that this is the one I'm working with you guys. I'm going to click Save. All right. Now I want to open up a new screen, and I want to bring in that Dahlia 2. Go to my desktop and back to downloads to update my screen, and I want to make sure I grab the PES embroidery file. If you cannot see the embroidery working file or the PES file, you're not looking at the type column, go up into View and make sure you are on Details, and that way you'll know which is which. So you want your embroidery file and grab it and bring it in. And when you do that, now we can see that the underlying stitches are not going to be stitched. Those underlying blanket stitches will not be stitched. So this is what we want. Now we run into the little problem that this petal right here, petal 12, needs to be under petal 1. So let's open up the Stitch Simulator. This is right up here next to your little select button. And if we grab this bar right here, we can see what's going to happen and how it's all going to happen. Everything looks fine, hunky-dory, until we get right here, and now that blanket stitch covers, and that's not going to work for us. Okay, so what we're going to do when this first petal, when this happens right here, let me move that back down. Okay, this is your placement line for petal number 1. When you pull the hoop from the machine and you iron on the piece, just iron this half of it right here, the right half, okay? Don't iron the left half. You need this edge open so that you can tuck petal number 12 underneath it once the petal number 12 placement line stitches. So you can tuck that under there. Then what we need to do right here, once this begins this blanket stitch, I don't want that stitching right there. That's not what I want. So I'm going to come over here in the Objects panel. And in the Objects panel we can see there is our placement line for petal number 1. Remove the hoop, iron down the right half. Here's the blanket stitch for petal number 1. I'm going to delete that. I'm just going to hit delete. So now I don't have any blanket stitches on number 1. All right. And I don't want the blanket stitches right here on 12 that are under number 1. So I'm going to drag this across, and we're going to get to the blanket stitches on number 12. Right there. Might even bring it in one extra stitch if you are so inclined. Let me zoom in so we can see what we're doing. Okay. Right here. I'm going to go one more like that, just so I make sure it catches it. Let me back up. Okay, right there. I'm going to create a new color, and I'm going to tell it to stop. So I'm going to click on the stop sign right here. And it says, what color do you want to make it? And I'm just going to make it this brown, red looking, whatever. It doesn't matter. Double click it. Okay. Now we're going to come back down here, and we're going to find that color. See? We're going to find this color right here, and we're going to hit delete. All right. So now that blanket stitch is going to do this. It's going to come up here, and it's going to stop right here. Now we need the blanket stitch to start down here on petal number 1, and I want it to stop right about there. So after you put petal number 12 on, then you're going to iron everything down as it's supposed to be, including ironing down number 1. Just go ahead and iron everything then. Now, what I want to do, I'm going to come back over here to Dahlia 2. I want to highlight this petal, number 1. On the petal, I'm going to right click, copy, come back over here. All right. Right click and paste. It pasted it right on top. That applique position can stitch if you want it to. You don't have to do that. You can jump over that stitch on your machine if you want. So now this is the second part of the Dahlia design. So let's go through it on the stitch simulator. We're going to come all the way over here. All right. There is that piece of it. Okay. When we want the blanket stitch to happen until we get right there. I'm going to stop. I'm going to hit color stop. And I'll call it a blue, tell it okay. And I'm going to grab it, highlight it, delete. Okay. I'm also going to highlight the applique position and hit delete. All right, now let's see what we've got going on here, okay? So there is our first petal. We're going to stitch that. Oh, now what are we doing here? Yep. So now we're going to iron this down. We're only going to iron half of it. And then it's going to stitch the second one, and it's going to go through. Let me zoom out a little bit, okay? This is what we're looking for, okay? This is looking good. All right, here's petal number 12. Half of the blanket stitch, I want it to stop. It's going to do the circle. Oh, I've got to change something. See that? So I want the blanket stitch to happen before the circle starts. So click open number 1. Let me scroll down, and I'm going to grab this, not on the word, but on the picture, and I'm going to hover it up over the one I want it to be after. So I want it to be after number 123. So after this stitches, then that'll stitch, then the placement line, and then that. Okay, that looks good. It's always good to run that stitch simulator to make sure that you've got it. All right, that looks good, and stop. Okay, I needed to end that stitching right on it. This is perfect, you guys. All right, and that's how you do that. Have fun. You guys go sew something. Bye.